Hello, welcome back to my channel. What we're doing is working through the Resilient Learner's Backpack book, and I am reading it for you. And if you are watching this video, I've animated it to try to bring it alive for you so it's not quite so dull. We are on step 7, engage the divided brain. On a rare sunny day in the Pacific Northwest, I headed for the University of Oregon's Speakers Hall, anticipating a lecture by Dr. Mark Pitzer, titled Making Memories, Using Neuroscience to Enhance Teaching and Learning. On one hand, I was eager to hear the information, and on the other hand, I was a little concerned about trying to stay awake through a dull scientific lecture, complete with PowerPoint slides filled with stats, brain images, and complicated explanations of how a memory is formed, stored, and retrieved. As the lights went down, Dr. Pitzer entered the stage and began to entertain us with hilarious stories while drawing on a whiteboard. Each story punctuated an important concept about how we make memories. It felt more like a comedy club than a neuroscience lecture. His teaching approach worked, and my brain decided that Dr. Pitzer's recommendations for making memories were important enough to send to long-term storage. Throughout the day, your brain is processing a lot of information, and while you're sleeping, it decides, should I put that memory in the trash can, or should I put it in the filing cabinet for retrieval when needed sometime in the future? The answer resides in something Dr. Pitzer calls the power of maybe, the little tricks in teaching that keep the brain wondering what's coming next. Too much uncertainty and too many signals of danger could lead to a dorsal vagal shutdown. So it's important to find the balance between, I know what's coming next, and now there's a twist I wasn't expecting. Rich sensory experiences using movement, drawing on emotions, gesturing, visuals, and the power of maybe make the difference between the dumpster or the file drawer. Next time you're teaching a potentially world-altering lesson, think, when these humans are winding down at day's end and snuggling into bed wearing their comfy jammies, is this lesson going into the trash can or the filing cabinet? The adage, teach with the brain in mind, is actually teach with the trash can in mind. In your tools for Step 7 is a summary of 7 surprisingly simple ways to make memories that are spared the fate of the nightly dumpster fire. And by the way, unless you and your students are getting 8 hours of sleep each night, your brains may have a difficult time processing memories. Add the power of maybe to everything you teach, so the brain isn't quite sure what's coming next. The brain loves patterns and looks for them, but within the patterns it needs a what's coming next moment to stay focused. To understand why the power of maybe is so intriguing to the brain, let's explore current neuroscience focusing on the 2 hemispheres of the brain. Engaging the divided brain. Inside your head are 2 worlds intersecting with one another and, yes, viewing the world through different lenses. Just as we perceive the world differently depending on the A and S state we're in, the brain perceives the world differently depending on the information the brain hemispheres are processing at any given time. Hemispheric specialization is a controversial subject volleyed about between disciplines and individuals within various fields. The application of the neuroscience focusing on hemispheric specialization morphed into different interpretations, from categorizing people as left brain or right brain dominant to defying dominance in favor of the brain functioning as a whole. With differing perspectives and minimal agreement, Dr. Ian McGilchrist leaned into the challenge by reviewing the science and synthesizing it into a cohesive argument in favor of hemispheric specialization. Dr. McGilchrist states that there are approximately 5,000 independent pieces of research focusing on the divided brain, and he's studied most of them. As a psychiatrist treating stroke victims and patients with a variety of mental health issues, he observed firsthand how behavior changed as a result of damage incurred in specific hemispheres. Combining his long history of observing behavior and diligently combing the research related to the divided brain, McGilchrist thoroughly addresses the controversy surrounding the function of the right and left hemispheres of the brain. He recommends we refine the focus from what each hemisphere does to how the right and left hemispheres see and experience the world. The hemispheres are connected through widely distributed networks of interconnectivity, where any change in one part influences the whole. Yet within the interconnectedness, differences exist. According to McGilchrist, the right hemisphere views the world with an inclusive both-and approach, while the left hemisphere views the world with an exclusive either-or approach. Activities in this book are designed in part to appease the needs and preferences of your left and right hemispheres. Checklists, observation tools, and worksheets, like those shared in steps 1 through 7, appeal to the left hemisphere, allowing it to understand the rules, discover the boundaries, and document observations. Activities focusing on bringing movement into academics, exploring learning paths, and packing metaphorical backpacks enliven the right hemisphere. In classrooms, it takes a balance of experiences for the brain to be its best version of itself. We've been on a journey together, hiking our learning paths and determining how to carry our backpacks of resources with us wherever we go. Whether we protect ourselves in sympathetic or dorsal vagal states, we know now how to access our backpacks filled with people, pets, places, things, events, skills, and strategies that make it possible to overcome obstacles and discover solutions along the way. The path to resiliency is designed for sharing with others. Who joins you has a lot to do with how they prefer to see the world, a combination of brain hemisphere processing and ANS states. For instance, if you invite someone to collaborate with you who is a nuts and bolts, 3 R's, just the facts, ma'am kind of human, leaning into some of the tools and activities in this book may not bode well for their left hemisphere, as the risk may seem too high. It feels unsafe to their nervous system as well. On the other hand, if you invite someone who embraces mindfulness, social-emotional learning, and trauma-informed practice, the odds of them wanting to collaborate with you is much higher. There's an alignment with how their brain experiences the world and how their nervous system responds to embodied activities, like many of the activities in this book. The more people you invite to participate with you in the befriending process, the higher the odds that transformation occurs from inside your classrooms and expands beyond your classroom walls. When you collaborate with others, your synergistic circle of support expands. You have more nourishing resources available through supportive colleagues who walk with you on your polyvagal path of safety, connection, and hopefulness. You are safe to explore, take risks, and bring the activities in this book alive within the reality of your classroom and beyond. This is also the ideal way to describe the collaborative relationship of the 2 brain hemispheres, who experience the world differently, yet depend on one another to accomplish more together than they can accomplish on their own. Moving forward on the path to resiliency. The learning path explains the process for moving toward a growth-minded ventral learning state based on availability of resources, nervous system resources, and cognitive resources. Students move toward growth or away from growth depending on how safe and connected they feel, their access to regulating resources, acquired skills, and engagement of the divided brain. The interdependent relationship between nervous system states, academic success, and mindsets is depicted in the learning path model. The student may move away from a ventral vagal state to sympathetic or dorsal vagal when the learning hub is unavailable. Conversely, a student is able to move through dorsal vagal and sympathetic states into a ventral vagal learning state when the learning hub is available. Nervous system flexibility and cognitive flexibility refer to the fluidity with which a student notices when nervous system protective responses of sympathetic and dorsal vagal states are activated. The key is ensuring students don't get stuck in those states for too long before seeking resources that assist with returning to a regulated learning state. The mind-body connection becomes the mind-body environment connection, integrative resources that increase options when encountering setbacks. Your teaching success and your learner's academic success depend on your ability to stay on your learning paths. This requires nervous system flexibility and cognitive flexibility to efficiently negotiate obstacles and keep moving forward. Congratulations! You're now ready to begin packing your and your students' backpacks with tools and activities to enhance your odds of getting through the tough stuff. You're discovering ways to integrate befriending activities into your classroom, school culture, and even your own home. I provided you with an outline of the essentials I've deemed important to carry in your Resilient Learner's backpack. Depending on your background, skills, and training, you'll add or modify to best meet your needs. Remember, the main point of this book is to provide regulating resources that build resiliency because dysregulation is disconnection from regulating resources. Understanding how memories are formed makes it easier for you to create lessons where learning sticks and is registered as important to the brain. The divided brain controversy is brought to a scientific conclusion with the work of McGilchrist. Knowing how to engage both hemispheres of the brain is a key to building more flexible and adaptable brains. The learning path motto explains why learners move toward goals and why some learners get stuck or move away from goals. Access to the Learning Hub is an important piece of the resiliency puzzle and engaging the divided brain. Packing backpacks with personalized essentials provides equitable opportunities for all learners to access academic curricula and optimize academic skills. There is an atmosphere of safety, connection, and befriending that permeates the school culture where everyone feels supported and nervous systems are nourished. A resilience-inspired practice fits seamlessly into the learning environment and can be easily integrated into any program or techniques you already use. Step 7 Backpack Essentials. Engage the divided brain. The one thing. It's important to understand that when a student isn't responding in an ordinary way to ordinary sensory stimuli, it's not because the student won't, but because the student can't. Carol Stock-Kranowitz, author of the Out of Sync Child series. Step 7 Objectives. Teach in a way that creates memories. Learn how to engage both hemispheres of the brain. Summarize the key points for all the steps and involve learners in packing their metaphorical backpacks. Hello again. Step 7, engage the divided brain. Your two tools are your motivation engagement tool and your engaging the divided brain tool. So there's a lot of science around how we can help students remember things better, how we can help keep them motivated and engaged. And I put them together in these two tools. And the divided brain tool is really interesting because we have this whole right hemisphere, left hemisphere argument. And I looked to Dr. McGilchrist's work. It's very thorough, well researched. And each hemisphere actually sees the world and processes the world differently, but we are whole-brained individuals. So I just wanted you to have these tools that you could keep handy for reference, making sure that you're teaching in a way that's motivating and engaging also to the brain. The bop being bounce circle activity is kind of fun, and if you've been with me in if you're on my newsletter, you'll know I've talked about this a lot. Having students either bop with their fists or bink with their tapping sticks, and I actually found out that rabbits do something called binking. When rabbits are really happy, the little bunnies, they jump around and they kind of twirl in the air and land on their little paws, and it's called binking. So I thought that was funny because I liked the word binking for tapping, and I think it is kind of a joyous activity, so it works. And the bounce part is you can bounce red or blue balls. So if you bought the backpack, you got tapping sticks and you got balls and you got a whole bop, bink, bounce book. So I took these activities and put them into a color format and expanded them for days of the week, months of the year, learning to count, all kinds of things. So you have that book as a resource if you did buy the backpack. And so this, you can just read the instructions, pretty straightforward how to do this activity. Learning on the move activity is something I used to do with my students all the time, and especially with my high school biology students. We just, I take sentences out of the book, cut them in, write them onto strips or cut them into strips, copy it off, copy the section off, then cut them into strips. And each student had their strip. I had them practice reading. So if I had poor readers, I made sure they got a section that they could read all the words. I went around, made sure everybody knew what they were going to be reading. And they just walk around the room and they read their whatever's on their strip. And then after that, we pull together all the information. What did you learn? And we try to put it in order of how they learned it, how the order of it in the chapter and in the book. So that's just another way to get students up. 30% more blood flow to the brain if you stand up. So get them up and walking around, engaging. And this would be an example of distributed cognition, right? Because we've all got our parts, we're reading it, and we're helping each other learn. This word shifting activity I really liked. I got this from Deb Dana's book. And I love this idea of saying, I'm so this, I could that. So I'm so frustrated, I could rip up this paper. Becomes, I'm so frustrated, I could work with a partner. I'm so confused, I could give up. I'm so confused, I could ask for help. I'm so stressed, I could cry. I'm so stressed, I could go for a walk. I think this would be really important to teach students to listen to their language. There's power in our words, There's power in our words and how it makes us feel in our nervous system. So teaching them how to shift not only their nervous system states, but also shift their words is really important. Then I've kind of summarized this menu. So I know some people use visual organizers, so I thought these could be used as visual organizers. You could cut them out and you could Velcro them onto a visual organizer. If there's a particular activity that the student's going to be doing that week and it's in their organizer, you could just pop it in there. But it's also a way for students to just see all the different activities and decide which ones they do prefer and which ones are working for them and which ones they want to put into their backpack permanently. And then you have the Path to Resiliency tool. I've just summarized everything that we've talked about in the 7 steps. I put them into an organized kind of a stepping stone format of here's where we start: befriend your nervous system, increase signals of safety and connection, identify regulating resources, retune the nervous system, expand nervous system flexibility, reduce cognitive load, and engage the divided brain. And that is how we get our students on the path to resiliency. And the final activity is the Circle of Success activity, where they're actually going to work with this image and they're going to put in their backpack all the things that they liked that you've taught them up to this point. These will be the tools in their metaphorical backpack. Thank you for listening or watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did enjoy the video, it really helps if you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks for all you do for children. We'll catch you in the next video.